My husband, Chris, and I live in a four-bedroom house. I have two daughters, tween and teen, and each has a room. My older daughter needs privacy. The third room is for my husband and me, and the fourth is for his dog. Now with the baby on the way, we've been going back and forth on where we should put the nursery. My husband flat out said that his dog's room was off limits and casually asked me to pick one of the girls' rooms and have the girls share a room. I was shocked when he suggested that. I argued with him, asking if he was serious about this suggestion, then called him unreasonable. He yelled at me, saying I can't be acting shocked and calling him the unreasonable one when my younger daughter had a room all for herself. I flipped and called him delusional, and we had a big argument and then stopped talking to each other. And by the way, the girls are his stepdaughters, not biological daughters. He even asked to have their bio dad pay to build a room in the house. Of course, he was being sarcastic. He's had his dog for 4+ years. He's overprotective of him, and there's always a fuss in the house because he thinks that my family and friends scare the dog and give him bad vibes, so he provides him with his own space. The dog sleeps most of the time in that room and doesn't even do anything with all the stuff my husband put inside. Basically, it's wasted space, in my opinion. It's been like this since my girls and I moved in. It's his house, so there isn't much I could do to change it. Also, my oldest daughter isn't having it. She's telling me that she'd go live with her grandma if this scenario happened, which makes it even worse. So now I feel stuck between a rock and a hard place. However, even before this happened, he always thought it'd be better if the girls shared a room, but I insisted on my older getting a room for herself. He thought that would divide the girls and put distance between them. But in my opinion, a tween and a teen sibling don't spend much time together anyway, except when my older is watching her sister when I go out of town. And for the record, the dog's room is the smallest in the house, followed by my younger daughter's room, her sister's room, and then our bedroom. He suggested we put the nursery in the bedroom as a last resort, but I refused. He's angry, saying I clearly think so little of his dog to be so willing to kick him out of his room. Then he reminded me of whose house this is, which I thought was uncalled for and unfair, since I've been paying more toward the mortgage and all that. Am I the idiot for my reaction? So he thinks it's outrageous, even to suggest his dog not get his own room, but checks notes. A tween girl having her own room is unnecessary? Sorry, I can't believe you made a child with someone who thinks like this. And excuse me, why are you paying the majority of the mortgage? Is your name on the house or deed? If not, then you are the idiot. I've never even heard of a dog having a bedroom. How can someone give a dog a bedroom over a human? What does the dog do in their bedroom? Homework? Change clothes? Chat on the phone with friends? Your husband is delusional. He prioritizes his dog over children and weaponizes your living situation to get you to back down. He's not going to improve magically. Yikes. So bad you didn't get that red flag before making a baby with this man. He has no respect at all for your kids. You do realize that you and your daughters are guests in his house, right? This is not a marriage. This is a tenant-landlord with benefits. I hope you've kept the evidence of the mortgage payments that you've been making and any other money spent on the house, because they will come in handy later. Oh, and he wasn't being sarcastic. How often does he say something insulting or derogatory and follow it up with, "It's just a joke"? The red flags are flashing brightly here, but I wonder if you're seeing them all yet. I would think long and hard if this is the life you want for yourself and your children. He's not willing to compromise over a nursery for his child. What's next? My daughter, Teen, has a thing for baking. She bakes cakes and I said some, not all, sweets, and makes money by selling her work to relatives, friends, and supposedly us. My husband's, her stepdad's, 45th birthday occurred days ago. He asked my daughter to bake him the birthday cake and she agreed. I told him about paying her, to which he responded, "Pay her? Get out of here, I'm her dad." I insisted, as she's a yes person and a people pleaser, so she won't outright demand the money from him. He said he'd pay, but days went by and he didn't pay her a cent. I decided to go ahead and sell the wristwatch I bought him as a birthday present and pay her for him. He found out and went off on me. I told him he had enough time and he should have paid her before he even received the cake. He said that I was teaching her to treat the familial relationship as transactional and raising her to be materialistic. I explained the time, effort, and even money she put toward making the cake. Still, he lashed out verbally, calling me an idiot for making this move and for enabling my daughter to expect so much from the family that she's supposed to help with nothing in return. He was furious and almost told the whole family about how I took his birthday gift and returned it. I got enough shame from the family members to begin to think that I might be an idiot for how I dealt with this. Am I the idiot? My daughter did want and expected to be paid. If she intended for it to be free, then I would have kept my mouth shut. And also, the wristwatch isn't expensive, so I kept the rest of the money after giving my daughter her share. You are the idiot. I have never heard of a person expecting to get paid for making a close relative's birthday cake. If your daughter owned a bakery and your husband went in and ordered a cake, yes. And seriously, as his wife, it would be normal that you provide the birthday cake, whether you make it yourself or buy one at the local bakery. So if you wanted your daughter to make your husband a cake and you wanted her to be paid for her work, then you should have paid her. Oh, and she kept the change, the filthy animal. I find all these stories of married couples with totally separate finances and highly transactional dynamics when it comes to money quite strange and uncomfortable. It makes me glad to have only joint bank accounts and healthy communication strategies. I'm not going to call anyone an idiot because I think a lot of it comes down to gory details about time frames and who directly asked what of whom. But this is a bizarre thing to litigate this hard. Who expects a family member to pay them for a birthday cake on their own birthday? Who wages a proxy war about it on behalf of someone who apparently doesn't want payment enough to advocate for it themselves, and then returns a present as revenge instead of just reminding him? But also, who puts their wife on blast to the entire family over a birthday present? I diagnose you all with a weird and petty disease. Your sentence is to drink a glass of water and count to 10. My fiance comes from a fit family. They love the gym and fitness and all that, which is great. He's perfect, and I love how much he likes to work out. I, on the other hand, am not a gym person. I'm a curvier girl. Yeah, I'll work out and go on hikes and runs, but I'm not hitting it like his family. Doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. He loves me as is, and I love him as is. When I met his family, his sisters welcomed me with open arms. I love them like they're my blood. As for his parents, the first thing his dad did was look at my partner and ask if he was serious. My fiancés and his sisters went off at their dad for saying that. He tried to write it off as a joke, but we all know what he meant. Anytime I saw his parents, his dad would give me looks, and his mother would make snarky comments about my weight and outfits. She would never do it when my partner or his sisters were around because they'd tell her off for it. My partner proposed, and we started planning our wedding. I'm Pakistani, and we traditionally have big weddings, and it's not uncommon for parents to pay for them. So my parents offered to pay for our big Desi wedding. My fiance and his sisters are excited, and since the wedding will be huge, we decided to make the engagement party very small. Well, when his parents heard that my parents would be paying for the wedding, and they offered to pay for the engagement party, we refused. They insisted, and now they are. Last night, we had a family dinner at his sister's place, and at the dinner, my fiance's mother made multiple comments about me going on a diet and starting to lose weight before the wedding, and she kept mentioning how she was paying for the engagement party. There's only so much a person can take, so I confronted her about it in front of everyone. I told her that if she can't stand a fat bride-to-be, she doesn't have to pay for it and is uninvited to our engagement party. My fiance intervened and said we couldn't uninvite his mother. She started crying and yelling about how she already paid for the venue and the catering, so she is paying for it, and she will be attending. I don't know what venue and catering because nothing was run past my fiance and me to check if we approve. His sisters agreed with me, berated their mother for her behavior toward me, and said that it was fair that she was uninvited. We all went back and forth, and I got sick of it, so I left. Later, when my fiance came home, he said he understood how hurt I was, but we couldn't uninvite his mom, especially since she had already planned and paid for everything. I told him that I wouldn't attend, and now he's angry at me and told me that I'm being immature and a witch. But I stand by what I said. Why should she be there if she can't stand the way I look? If he wants her there so bad, then I won't go. I won't tolerate being insulted and criticized at my own party. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. And please don't marry a man who would ever call you a witch. Ever. Under any circumstances. No one who truly loves you and sees you as their partner in life should even want to call you demeaning names, even if they're upset with you, much less a name like that. Take this as a warning. No man who puts his mother's feelings or money about a mere party above yours, even as she belittles your literal body and self, and who will call you such horrible names, is someone you want to make a life with. My heart sank at the witch comment too. I've been married for over 2 decades, and my husband has never called me a witch to my face, even when I've been one. OP, you paint a very rosy picture of your fiancé, like he's perfect and has always had your back, etc. But are you sure? They say love is blind, and I sincerely have the feeling that you've been overlooking other incidents and red flags and convincing yourself that it's not a big deal. His horrible attitude after the dinner and calling you a witch didn't just come out of nowhere. Please think hard and don't marry this man, at least not without seriously reflecting on whether it's worth it. This is your future. This woman will make these same comments to any child you have. Since your fiancé is refusing to have your back now, you know deep down he won't have his own children's back in the future. And you will be equally to blame if you knowingly bring any child into this toxic family. I, female 24, have a girlfriend, Hannah, 26. We were friends in college and reconnected and have been dating for around 7 months. A few days ago, it was my cousin's wedding, and everyone was allowed a +1, including myself. I asked Hannah if she wanted to go with me, and she agreed. She's a huge social butterfly and loves big events. The venue is around a 2-hour drive from my home, so I made it clear to Hannah that we needed to leave in plenty of time not to be late. The ceremony started at 2 p.m., so I said we should aim to leave a little after 11 to allow for traffic and stop on the way if we needed to. Hannah is super into makeup and hair, and she took a very long time to get ready. When 10:30 a.m. rolled around, I gently reminded Hannah that we must leave soon to get there on time. She told me she was nearly done and not to worry. 10:50 rolls around, and Hannah doesn't look anywhere near ready. I told her that we really needed to leave soon and reminded her of what time it is. Hannah told me to chill and that she was nearly ready. Once it reached 11 a.m., Hannah still wasn't ready. I told her that we needed to leave ASAP. Hannah told me to calm down and that she was nearly ready. She wasn't even dressed yet. I started to get panicky and told Hannah to please hurry up. Hannah got mad and said that she's told me she was nearly ready. By the time it was 11:20 a.m., Hannah still wasn't ready. I got really annoyed and told Hannah if she wasn't ready in 10 minutes, I was leaving without her. I don't think she believed me. She just laughed and told me I was being silly. I ended up leaving without her because by 11:30, she was still in her PJs. I managed to get to the wedding on time, which was great. After the ceremony, I noticed Hannah blowing up my phone. I called her back and she immediately started screaming at me and said that I'm obsessed with being ridiculously early to things and said that I need to be more understanding and that if I had waited 5 minutes, she would have been ready. She said I'm a selfish jerk and I need to evaluate my priorities. I wasn't able to get any word in before Hannah hung up the phone. Since then, Hannah's been ignoring me, and I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Not the idiot. She was selfish and disrespectful. You had a wedding to attend. You can't just show up late. You gave her plenty of advance notice and check-ins, and she consistently laughed you off so she could lounge longer. Going to the wedding was not a priority for her. She's giving you a glimpse of your future with her. Is this someone you want to date? It's also a wedding, Isn't it etiquette to arrive around 30 minutes before the ceremony starts? The ceremony begins at 2, which is different from when you're meant to arrive. Consider this a warning by her. Do you want to deal with this time issue and her juvenile response to being left going forward? She had a whole extra 30 minutes. There is no excuse for not getting in the car. I say this as someone who has issues with time management. It's not fair to make someone else late for something important to them. So put on the outfit at the 10:50 warning and take your makeup and hairbrush to the car. She'd have 2 hours in the car to primp. I, 30 male, am married to my wife, Ellie, 29, and we're expecting our first child later this month. Background: Ellie and her brother Leo and late brother Josh were raised by my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law was a former foster child who never found a forever family in the system and could never track down any biological family. However, she does believe she'd have half-siblings somewhere. When Ellie and her brothers were little, Dad decided to quit his job and leave his wife alone to raise the kids, and she struggled. Then she lost Josh, the oldest. It tore them apart and yet was another big hit for my mother-in-law, who did everything she could for her kids. Ellie's talked about her mom suffering terribly with her mental health under the strain of everything, and how she's grateful that she recovered enough to be present in their lives today. Today, mother-in-law is starting to be in a better, more stable place financially, but she's far from rich. She's also not dropping everything to help her kids all the time. Ellie and Leo had told me before that their mother had to give away so much of herself when they were growing up, had to spread herself so thin that they don't think she could do it anymore because she had no support and only had her kids, who she didn't want to burden. So even though we live close to mother-in-law and Leo, she's not offering to be our childcare. Not that we expect her to, but I will get to why I say that. And she didn't pay for our wedding or throw us a big, massive baby shower. She's a wonderful person, and Ellie will always say she's the best mom and would never ever want to lose her. My parents were visiting this weekend, and we argued. Back when we were engaged, they had commented that our wedding was not as big as they would have expected, and that my mother-in-law had not paid for anything. I told them that it was our wedding, not mother-in-law's, so she had no reason to pay for it. I told them not to bring it up again. They knew the history then, but it was bothering them that we chose to live close to her when she gives nothing and does nothing a mother and expectant grandmother should do. Then they started talking about how it must kill my wife that her own mother doesn't care, is a crappy mother, and how they know she'd likely hoped mother-in-law would offer to watch our child while we both work and throw her a big baby shower and offer to be on hand to help with every little thing. I told them they had no right to speak about what my wife wanted, and how dare they judge mother-in-law so harshly when they know what she's been through. I told them I didn't want them upsetting my family, wife, brother-in-law, and mother-in-law with these opinions, and I made them leave. They told me I was punishing them for having sympathy for my wife and for wanting better for her than her mother does. They said I should let my wife decide if they spoke out of turn, but she was upset. She knows I'm happy to step in and deal. But was my reaction too harsh? Am I the idiot? I always believed, and still do, that it's each partner's job to rein in their own parents. Not the idiot. You did what you had to do. Your mother-in-law's also not a bad mother or grandmother. She had a tough life and is doing the best she can. Your parents, however, are idiots for judging her and pitying your wife. They were offering criticism under the guise of sympathy. It's not up to them to decide what your mother-in-law can or cannot afford to do in terms of money or time. You've done well for your wife here. If you had remained silent, your parents would take it as tacit approval. Amazingly, you are so empathetic, considering how lacking they are in that regard. Your wife is lucky to have you defending her.